Good afternoon, everyone. We've just witnessed a few minutes earlier, before the previous session, an important milestone, the signing of a power purchase agreement between Foulath and Yellow Door Energy for a solar rooftop project. This marks a significant step forward in industrial decarbonization in Bahrain and in the region. So congratulations to both teams. This partnership captures the spirit of our discussion today. Energy-intensive industries are, like the steel industry, are the backbone of our economies, yet they face a dual challenge: sustaining growth and competitiveness while sharply reducing carbon emissions. For these sectors, the path to net zero is neither straightforward nor one-size-fits-all. Today's conversation will explore how collaboration between heavy industry and clean energy innovators can unlock new models for sustainable production, models that don't just reduce emissions, but also enhance operational resilience and long-term value. We'll delve into the practical realities of transitioning from traditional energy sources to distributed renewables, the infrastructure needs, the financing models, the policy enablers, and most importantly, the mindset shift required to make all of this work. Joining me are two leaders who are turning this vision into action: Dilip George, the CEO of Foulath, and Jeremy Crane, the CEO of Yellow Door Energy. Together, ladies and gents, they'll share insights on how industrial partnerships like today's can redefine what is possible for sustainable manufacturing in the region as a whole. Let's dive in, and let me start with you, Dilip. As a traditionally energy-intensive producer, how do you see the role of renewable partnerships like the PPA you've signed today in reshaping your company's competitive edge, not just in terms of sustainability, but more importantly, in cost stability over the long term?
Yeah, first of all, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me here. You're right, Naser. We are one of the largest consumers of, not the largest, consumers of energy in Bahrain. And energy is both a source, it's a big cost component to us, and it's a source of emissions for us. So renewables or decarbonization is not a peripheral topic for us. It is right in the center because it affects our competitiveness. So we take renewables very seriously. We of course, since it's a big cost component to us, one of the ways we use renewables is to have a handle on our costs, because there is a tendency for the carbon-based or fossil fuels to increase in cost, as we had seen in 2016, where our gas prices went up significantly from about $2.50 per MMBtu to about $4, which had an effect on electricity generation, which went up from 18 fills to 29 fills. This affected our profitability significantly. So by having a 25-year PPA, which we are signing now with Yellow Door, we have stable costs for the next 25 years. We are kind of using this as a hedge against future increases in fuel costs, which gives us stability in profit margins. It is a source of cost savings definitely for us, because the cost at which we are going to buy renewables is going to be cheaper than what we buy electricity. And increasingly, our customers are asking for more sustainable products, so greener steel. So it helps us to achieve that also by having renewables in our power mix. So this helps us in both directions, from a sustainability perspective, which meets our customer requirements, and also from a cost stability perspective. Yeah.
Jeremy, when working with heavy industries like steel, what innovations, particularly financial or contractual, are most critical to making renewable projects like this PPA, BOT contract model feasible and attractive to large manufacturer, such as Foulath?
Well, first, thanks very much for having me here today. Very excited to be part of this fantastic event. And Naser, it's a great question. Look, energy is normally a boring subject, but when you're a heavy energy consumer, as Dilip has just illustrated, energy is core to everything you do. And so if you can bring down that cost, if you can contract for security in the long term, you can have a significant advantage over a competitor in the industry. So when we look to partner with businesses such as Foulath to be their energy supplier, we're trying to marry our contractual structure with the vision that they have for their business. Foulath being a 40-year business, a mainstay of the economy here in Bahrain, has a long-term vision. So we can structure a PPA such that we can provide them with that certainty over gas price adjustments, which we certainly see as a risk in the coming years, not only in the past. We look to make sure that we're providing certainty in terms of quantity of energy, right? If a business is able to forecast their energy demand, we can meet that with our supply, try to create a balance there. And then, as you mentioned in the intro, it's also about reliability, right? Obviously, the grid here is stable, but in many industries, in the Gulf, in the GCC, you see fluctuations. So we can bring in storage elements, we can bring in power factor correction, we can bring in other auxiliary benefits to help industries also. So we want to be, to sum it up, we want to be a partner that's helping across the vision, the energy space that a business is operating in.
Dilip, integrating renewable energy into heavy industrial operation is not a simple feat. It's complex, especially when reliability, what Jeremy was talking about a little while ago, when reliability and production continuity are non-negotiable. What were the biggest operational risks and considerations in that realm that you had to address before committing to this PPA, and how did you overcome them?
So, like you rightly mentioned, Naser, reliability is a big factor for a steel business. You need continuous supply of power coming at a certain quality also, because power quality makes a big impact. So this was the biggest challenge, when we looked at integrating renewables into our power mix, whether we would have a reliable supply of power. As you know, renewables are, it's not continuous. It is depending on the availability of sunshine and, of course, the weather. So the biggest challenge we had was to ensuring reliability. From that perspective, we like to thank EVA, because their policy was such that we have a base load which comes from the grid, and then we have 30% of renewables coming into our system. So this mix makes sure that we have reliable supply, which takes care of the base load and ensures continuity of power. We also have power management systems, where if the solar is not generating sufficient power, we can switch to grid. So that de-risks the biggest issue we have, that whether we would get reliable supply from a renewable source. The next thing was, of course, our project is a large-size project, which is 123 megawatt, which we are pushing into the grid, which has never been done. So we did a huge study with an expert in the industry to make sure that when there is interconnection between the solar which we generate into the grid, there is sufficient protection for the grid, not only for the external grid but also the internal grid, to make sure that if there is any vulnerability in the grid, whether in our grid or the EVA grid, it was identified upfront. We also had issues in terms of quality, power quality, because we are going to connect inverters for the solar which is generated. They produce harmonics, so power quality became an issue. We had to have, we are installing power quality monitoring systems. We wanted to make sure that there is no short circuit happening in the system, which can create an issue with the transformers. We had to upgrade some of our switchgears. So we had to make sure that the grid was, or the project which we are implementing was robust enough to not transmit any risks into the grid because it was a public grid. So that was also a big challenge where we had very good support from EWA, which guided us on how to technically implement a solution which mitigates all the risks that would possibly come from solar.
Well, Jeremy, on that technical front, might get a little bit technical for the audience, but distributed solar is often viewed as a clean supplement. So certainly it is in the case here with Foulath. It's not a backbone for industrial energy supply, yet at least. How are you overcoming technical challenges such as variability, load matching, potential grid integration in the future to ensure the reliability for energy-sensitive clients such as Foulath? And do you think solar could ever be a baseload supplier for industrial players?
Look, it's a great question, and I've got to say the answer is evolving day by day. So for the Foulath installation, they are a massive consumer of energy. And so we can never fully meet their needs. I know as has been said, they have most exciting thing for me about this project is they've constructed this massive, massive shed. We're putting 50 megawatts on one rooftop. That is the largest single rooftop project in the world. Now, even with that and all the auxiliary power totaling 123, we're never going to meet the demand of a business such as Foulath. So our need to do demand matching is actually fairly limited. But when you look at the broader ecosphere that we're working in, there's many businesses where we can now generate as much or more than they need in the middle of the day. And by using storage, we can time shift that to the evenings or the mornings. And that in itself means instead of creating a generation graph, or the geeky part, where you've got spikes and dips throughout the day as the sun changes.
Smooth it all out.
You smooth it out, you create a baseload generation. So we've got several projects we're working on right now in the region where that makes a lot of sense. And so whether you're generating normally 8 hours, if you can extend that to 12, 18 hours, that's what's changing today. And that's what is allowing us from going from a 30% supply for Foulath to maybe a 60, even 80% supply for some of the customers we're talking with in heavy industry throughout the region.
The storage is key there, right?
Storage.
Dilip, if you wanted to make that journey, increase it from 30%, let's say to 80%, just like Jeremy mentioned a little while ago, what sort of government support and incentives would you be looking for? Would there be a need for, and what sort?
So, I mean, it's a good question, Naser. The thing is, we have invested significantly into sustainability and making sure that one of the big constraints of Bahrain is availability of land to do solar projects. And like Jeremy mentioned, we built one of the largest sheds in the world, on top of which we are putting a solar, which when we started conceptualizing the solar project, it was at around 40 megawatt. And then this shed helped us to take it to 90, and then it's grown because we have maximized the usage of rooftops in our facility, because we cannot get land where we can do a solar park because Bahrain is constrained on land. So we probably have reached a limit on what we can do on solar, like Jeremy mentioned.
On land.
on land. Yeah, we have looked at doing solar on water, but it is more expensive.
Floating solar.
Floating solar, yeah. And I think EWA has plans to get into that. So I think they're not allowing private companies to go into floating solar. But there are other things which I think are important the government can do to help us in transitioning to a cleaner energy.
Like what?
Like for example, I'm just saying what is happening in other countries. You have in Saudi Arabia, see, going forward, what is going to be critical for our competitiveness is our ability to transition to greener fuels. It's a given, you know, it is a competitive advantage now. Going forward, it will be a necessity. Yeah. Because a lot of projects nowadays are coming up asking for green steel, and the only way we can produce it if we have access to green energy. But doing green energy as a company on your own is going to be very expensive. So Saudi Arabia is putting up a hydrogen infrastructure to produce hydrogen and supply to industries. You have Oman also doing a hydron project, which is again into hydrogen. You have Emirates, which is doing carbon capture and use for the emissions, which again is a government initiative. It's not an investment by Emirates Steel. So these are areas where government we feel that should support the industry to set up this infrastructure, which can supply reliable green energy going forward. It could also look at doing solar projects in other countries like Saudi Arabia, where there is plenty of land, and bring the green power for industries. Because green energy access is going to be critical if Foulath is going to be competitive going forward.
Jeremy, from your point of view, does this partnership signal the start of a broader shift where distributed renewables can play a big part for industrial players, and maybe making that move from pilot projects to more, you know, utility scale projects?
Look, I think the bold step that Foulath has taken to embrace solar power is, we think, a start of a really significant trend. The success of this project is going to demonstrate to others in the steel industry, in the metals more broadly, in the heavy industry, cement, that it is very, very viable to generate lower cost and clean energy from renewables. So I think this is a model for what's going to come, and I think we're going to see a lot more significant announcements like this, certainly as in our neighbors in Saudi, as they start on their same distributed generation journey. So yes, I think it's a very exciting model that, again, Bahrain is leading in the region.
Dilip, we've got less than a minute. Is this a first step on a long journey, you think, or is this just a one-off? What other steps are coming?
So the solar project took about 3 years to conceive, to study, and to implement. And we are just signing, and another 2 years of construction. So these are long gestation projects. So, but we focused on this because for us, this was the low-hanging fruit. We initially, so the government of Bahrain announced the pathway to net zero by 2016 in 2021. And from 2022 onwards, we have been working on our pathway to achieve net zero. So there are many initiatives which have happened. Like one of the things which we focused on initially was to reduce our fuel consumption, electricity consumption internally, so that we improve our costs and our emissions by optimizing our processes. So that was already done before we started into solar. There are other projects which we are doing, which is like a pilot hydrogen project we're looking at. We're looking at increasing the mix of scrap in our burden, in our melt shop, which is a greener way of producing steel. So there are many initiatives in the pipeline which we are working on.
Well, it's a great initiative, and we'd like to see more of those green materials, especially being exported to markets all over the world. Dilip, Jeremy, thank you so much, and hope it was beneficial also to the audience. Thank you all.